welcome to the ImAssuming podcast with Ija Mohan, and I have returning Mr. Karamjit because our first podcast was kind of cut short due to life and time. And if you see why he's wearing a mask, obviously because we are in the midst of another lockdown, and Karam happens to be a neighbor, so we are not breaking any cross-border issues like that. So, and Karam is being extra prudent. Since we are in a confined space, choosing to wear the mask so that I don't have to wear it. Thanks, Karam.
This is an interesting thing. We were on BFM since 2012 till 2000, just short of 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 7 years. So free content, right? But I noticed that the show would be on Thursday.
Okay.
So Thursday night or Friday, you check the articles that you spoke about. There's no bump because people are on their car listening and all.
Okay.
And there's been no story that's sensational or striking that the passive listener, right? You're a BFM listener and you only do in the car, right? When you get home, you say, no, don't disturb me. I must go and read this article. You may have it in your mind on the go, but then you forget when you get into the humdrum of getting home from work.
Yeah.
So negligible. So that's why the BFM people tell me, Karam, your people don't go to the article because you're talking too much. You're giving them too much away. But I don't use the show as a teaser. Okay, 3 minutes I talk. Go to read further. No point now. People are busy and they are not your normal DNA readers, right? BFM is about economy, it's about politics, about social everything, not about technology.
So okay, one of the big assumptions I've had on regarding like radio and okay, since you were saying that you've been on BFM, you were on BFM the show for like 7 years, you say?
Almost 2 months short of 7 years
7 years, right? Just to help me understand, right?
Yeah.
You all get paid or is
No, it's free.
How does that work? Because I always assume that if you are generating content, in essence, you're being a radio DJ
for an established platform, because they tell you that. So we took it on because we want to edit, because the BFM audience is not our target audience, but we took it on because we want the casual observer whose parents, right? We want parents to hear, because the executive who's listening is a parent, right?
Okay.
For them to realize that.
Nicely. Yes.
No, so we want to position it that they are casually listening. We understand it's not their core thing, right? While you're driving, it's your go-to channel, or you just listen what's on. We want them to realize gradually that disruption is real. It is already happening. It's not something that's going to happen in the future.
Okay.
And when you talk about the interesting careers and jobs, right? So people realize that, so if my kids suddenly tells me they want to do robotics or AI or whatever, I say, hey, no, cannot get job. Go and, go do accounting. So we wanted to convince that. So that's why we like the BFM audience, not our target audience.
Okay.
So we're broadening our appeal. And we want your average mom and dad, to realize that this is a critical, field for the present and for the future. So the kids should have, they should support their kids to have an element of technology in their education upbringing.
I understand even if BFM was to ask me now to go do some content on BFM, I think it's exciting to have a platform.
Okay, yeah.
But in my simplified mind, if you ask me, you're doing it for 7 years, they should have paid you. I feel like
sure, maybe it actually never struck our mind. Maybe towards the end we were saying, hey, let's try to sell the slot, right, for sponsor. But in the 7 years, and we didn't try. But there was no sponsor who came and said, hey, we want this spot, we want to sponsor this slot, but you got to make sure DNA is there. Then we got leverage.
At what point, just to understand the media landscape, I'm not so familiar with it, right? At what point would a content become, you can monetize it? At what point does, like even now you're doing with Roshan, at what point does what you do become monetizable in that sense? Because if you hadn't told me today that no, you did it for free, or you were not expecting to get paid, right?
Yes.
That blew my mind, because I would imagine to have a show on BFM for 7 years, they must be paying you for the content because you are providing content for them, right?
No, for them it's just platform. You're promoting yourself. So for them, your people getting to know about DNA. So which is true also So I guess there are some people who get to know you, right? But it was never an opportunity that we saw a direct monetization link. But for us, like I said, the reason was not that.
Okay.
And even when we came on also, Malay say, hey, I'll help you. You all can promote DNA . And But that still wasn't the main motivation. That would help us get it out a bit, but just to make the public aware that technology is, especially digital, right? It's a key part of today's ecosystem and in your life and work. And you'll just better be a convertees. You don't have to be devotees, but be convertees that this is an important part of the ecosystem. And anytime in your family, anybody said you want to pursue a career in that, I hear about this so often on BFM. Okay, I support you, son,
No,
so that was our key thing. Never about driving traffic to DNA. That was never the intention.
Just to be clear, I think the way I look at it, I do believe that there is the purest of intention for BFM to provide exposure to DNA and to DNA to also give the content. I'm not trying to be malicious and saying that
that was win-win.
I'm just saying that from a simplistic point of view, you would think that anybody who gets on air, because if you're just a guest for one episode, okay lah. If I come on to BFM, I'm a guest, I don't get paid, I understand. But if I'm coming on for 7 years,
no, but also we reduced the frequency. We were doing once a week, right? Then I think in year 5, I say, guys, I don't have the bandwidth.
Okay.
And then the team didn't want to go, so they wanted me to do my Bhangra all the time. So we reduced it to once every 2 weeks. And then from once every 2 weeks, actually, we were even planning to reduce it to once a month. But then I say look, why? And we don't want to be the only ones. It cannot be that listen to tech news, only DNA can do it, right? Everybody I say, guys, look for somebody else who's writing about technology and get them on to talk some other episode. So, and in fact now, like the Edge has just launched Edge Digital. So it's like their technology pull out. And then 2 or 3 people have said, hey, Edge coming after your food. I say, of course not. It's better for you. You want only DNA to be interested in what you're doing. Everybody should be interested. Nanyang, Nanban, right? Everyone should be interested in what you're doing. Then our challenge is that we should make sure that we write your story the best. They say, hey, the best story on this was written by DNA. That has to be our challenge. You cannot be in a niche and then hope nobody else does it. Like, hey, no, cannot cari makan here, go and do something else. No.
Actually, that's
it's good for you're looking at ecosystem, right? So the more people who cover you, the better.
Actually, you are right. I think I can. I recall now from our first podcast. You don't like me to agree with you. Okay, I see the argument on the other side in the sense that people say that they assume that your potential audience is X. And the more people that come to serve the audience, they're actually taking the audience away from you. Maybe it's my entrepreneurial, optimistic viewpoint, but I always see that when there are more players in the market, right, they're actually going to educate other people to grow your community. That means they're going to do their part to kind of grow people who are interested or bring more exposure to tech related companies and all that.
Of course, yes.
And at the end, it's better for you because more people are in the field.
Yeah, more people believe it's important, yes.
Yeah, but I do feel that's an optimistic way of looking at it. Okay. But I look at it that way, but that's an optimistic way of looking at it. It's
the way I also, DNA also looks at it, not just me,
Okay, so, we will, so we are optimists in a sense.
Yeah.
I think
I'm a realist, because you're focused on the ecosystem, right? So the more news, the more points they see about...
is not an optimist, right? Is it the same thing? I would.
No. Optimist means that you are saying I'm maybe I never really spend time analyzing the two, but optimist is then you're saying that maybe at some point it will grow the market big enough that maybe people will start reading my content and then my readers will read your content. But I use that as I'm a realist because you cannot expect people not to come into a particular need. And I was hoping there would be people covering technology more, right? And the reason why we did this also put a physical form to the technology stories, the entrepreneurs we are writing about, right? And distribute this in a business publication. I could have paid less and introduced it, use Her World or some other publication to distribute, right? Not premium business publication. We paid extra to make sure this goes out to the right audience. So we've always been focused on getting the story out and making sure that the right people want to read them, and the edge audience, the business audience, is actually the right one.
I also think, right, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I also think that if you are, how do I say, if you're on the leading edge of things, where there wasn't a tech focused publication and then you all decided to do it, right? Even if there's a few other people to come into the field, but you are still the market leader in the sense that you are recognized as the first mover. of course, if you all don't keep up with the pace and don't innovate, if somebody comes up with like very high video content and they try to out-innovate you and you decide not to compete, then it's a different story. But then as long as you guys also evolving, I think you will also always be seen as a how do you call that? Leading innovator, right?
I think so. I don't like the word innovator. It's it's one of the cheapest words in the business world. Everybody throws it out, right? And it's not, we have not innovated, right? It's just online. Look, whatever I was doing on print, that comes out on print, now it just comes out directly on the website. It's still text-based. When we launched, we wanted to do video, but video is difficult in the sense that you got to take extra equipment with you. Even though now the equipment can be just a high definition recorder, handheld one, but then there's a bit of editing to be done sometimes. And then we did put up videos in the initial stages, but we saw that the traction was not that much. And we say, hey, people are reading our stories already, right? So be it like, nobody ever said, Karam, if DNA doesn't do video, I like you, but I'm not going to read I'm not going to go to your website. So it has never been an existential, situation for us where we have to do video or we're going to die. Although when we launched, people were telling us, especially in 2015, people were saying, hey, video, everybody's going video. Wall Street, New York Times, in fact, one Malaysian entrepreneur went to the US, he met with key people from Huffington Post and New York Times and one more publication, and he said all three of them were shouting the mantra, video is the next, is the must go to platform for content companies. But not true. You look at New York Times, hardly any video there, right? Very little. Is 95% of the content is text.
Picking up from where we left off and what you were saying earlier, this idea about video content, right? Can I ask you if you have watched The Social Dilemma, the show?
Oh no! In fact, you're the second or third person to say it's on the streaming platform I use, but it has not been urgency for me to watch it yet, because I'm already aware of the issues and all, right? So it's like I don't need to watch it to be educated. Oh, I didn't know this, or I need to take this more seriously.
It's not so much. I think the scary part about watching that show is I think it confirms a lot of our fears. I think if any of us have given any thought to our behavior on social media or how a community is on social media, we have kind of formed our own assumptions, right, on worst case scenarios, right? And then when you see The Social Dilemma, and I think the interesting thing about that show is that the people who talk on the show are all ex-employees of these tech companies. The people who are head of commercialization for Facebook, head of monetization for Facebook, people who work for Twitter, people who work for Google and all that. So when you hear it kind of from the horse's mouth, of course they all are ex-employees.
Right? Good luck. You're a bit more free, you're a lot more free to talk about. Unless some of them had NDAs, but then they wouldn't be on the show. So these are not the super senior fellas where you got NDAs, right?
No, but they had fellas who were like on Facebook side. It was the head of monetization for Facebook. I think director of monetization. So they obviously not probably the C level, but they were key players, I mean, in a sense, right?
Yes.
And I think
very important.
Why I brought that up was that you were mentioning earlier about exploring video content, and
we just briefly we were flirting with the idea, but we never explored it.
And the other part where you mentioned that when a Malaysian entrepreneur went to the US, everybody's jumping up and down on video content, right? And saying, video is the next whatever.
Only these three big publications, so he came back very convinced. Video.
And I think there is truth to that. But unfortunately, I feel that the truth is a bit of a dark spot because they are using video content to kind of feed you. Don't have to think, just watch, just scroll, so in a way to kind of get you just plugged into the system.
I don't think so. Video content, look, New York Times does video content. It is not to get you plugged into the system, right?
But
because they do it with their
New York
quality.
Times is not doing so much video.
No, but at that time they wanted to, but then you realize it's hard to do. It's easier for a writer to go to, and there was a great story they did on Alaska, global warming.
Okay.
Right? But I think that the writer went there and then they hired a drone.
Okay.
But easy, then you got the drone thing, then you got voiceover over the drone, then there's so much more work to be done because your drone has to record. When you do anything with drone, you got to record a lot, right? Unless you're very strategic, just go over Anchorage City, right? Or go over district or go over the seashore. But then the drone is just going for its 20 minutes, or then you come back, somebody has to go through it and then pick the 30 second, you record for 20 minutes on seashore or whatever, you're picking seconds only,
So
and the time is so compressed. So there's an incredible amount of work to be done on video. And I've done a panel session where I did a panel session for an hour with 3 people there, okay? And then I got to go in because the video editor is not a content guy. Okay. So I got to go in and listen to everything and then listen carefully and then, at the 26 minute and 4 second mark, right, at this word you take, and then at the 27 minute you take this word for him, this sentence. Then you go and do that. And how incredibly tedious that is. So, the article is done already, but they wanted to add video in there. And I think when I finished, I told the editor-in-chief of my boss at the time, and this is not with DNA lah, I said look, to do this thing, actually I had to sit down for 9, almost 10 hours to do. To create that 5 minutes or 6 minute video. That's insane lah. Your time is, even if your cheap intern, okay lah, do lah, but it's never worthwhile,
No, you're right.
It takes too long.
And when I talk to some of my friends who
so be careful about video. You think video, so of course you do consumer tech maybe lah, right? Consumer tech, you're showing things all, but if it's a panel session with 4 senior people, but it's still boring.
But Karan, I agree with you. Because even in a very small way for this podcast, when I started out, it was purely audio only on Spotify, right? I didn't want to go to the video realm only because the time consuming part of doing video editing, even if it's just cutting and putting in an intro, putting in an outro, making sure the sound is okay, it is very time consuming, and I'm not putting any special effects.
Sure.
Of
course.
So I'm nowhere close to any kind of production value that you are talking about.
Okay.
And even that is very time consuming, right? And also when you touch about video, the equipment you need, the computers that you need to be able to process video, where you don't have to wait hours and hours and hours. You also need to look at that equipment to record, to process, right? But what I think is one of the things that I think is very interesting is, apart from your view is on the production side, on somebody who's producing the content, right? I think what's really interesting is on the consuming side.
Okay.
And one of the things that I found myself doing is I became, I think maybe this year, 2020 more than anything, I became very aware of what I was consuming, the content that I was consuming, right? So I became very aware to the extent that on even on YouTube and Facebook, I try not to get recommended posts, right? So Facebook, I put it on chronology. I want to know what is the trending thing. And YouTube also, I try not to look at recommended videos. Right? And the reason being is because I realize the recommendations always brings me down into a rabbit hole. That means it's suddenly you see this, and you realize, hey, I'm wasting time. I'm wasting time. Why? And this is not the content that I wanted. It was kind of shoved into me. Right? And when I was saying that, the idea that when I watched even the Social Dilemma, what the confirmation that I got, the confirmation bias that I got from the show was that one of the key takeaways as a consumer is they're asking you need to learn to choose your content. Because right now, the average person on Facebook or Instagram, you are not choosing content. You're just scrolling. You get stuck on a video.
But the reason is, and this is the elephant in the room, right? Everybody likes to say they're busy, but I mean, honestly, a lot of people have a lot of time.
Yes.
And you create the busy because you're scrolling this, right? So people don't admit that they got time, they got free time, right? Or you got idle time. Hey, all these things about the thing that annoys me, the words are, I'm so busy, I'm very busy. No. If something is important enough, you will make time for it. That's one of the rules in life. The very busy person will suddenly make time for something that's very important. But just idling your time, I mean, most people just idle time and they go through, that's why you're easy to go here, go there, hey, this is interesting, that's interesting. Like I cannot do that. Maybe because I'm aware, not that I'm super busy, but I'm aware I'm not going to do that. So lucky being in tech and you're a skeptic, right? So you don't want to go there. And I didn't even get Facebook until 2012 because we had to launch DNA. They forced me, Karam, we're not going to join you unless you have a damn Facebook account. You got to promote your story, right? Not to share your life.
Yeah.
So I do. If you go to my DNA wall or you go to my timeline, is very few things I share, very little. Yeah. So even my stories also I don't share so much.
Yeah. Actually, so, in that sense, I got into social media, Facebook, Twitter, and whatnot, was actually to promote.
To reach to reach people.
At one point it was my restaurant and then my business and all that.
Yeah.
And even though I was there on a personal capacity, I always viewed my presence as a representation of whatever that I'm doing.
Yeah.
So you're right. I think you go past, the past 10 years of my social media posts, you will probably find a few posts around election time where you're sharing some thoughts, right?
Yeah.
But bar those super hot, heated, very emotional times, right?
Yeah.
I don't have that expressing of opinion posts and all that. But that's because I see this as, it's not a personal representation of me lah. It is it's a representation of whatever that is that I want to do, right?
But most people, you can see how well the platform does, right? So I think 4 years ago, suddenly people above 50 were the most active group, right? From you thinking it's a young kids platform, it's no more young kids platform. It's for people above 50. They'll share every little thing, right? Somebody I saw that day, one guy was in a hospital recovering from surgery and put, I'm so grateful. Like 200 messages every day, put an icon, good job, all. And sometimes you almost feel like my mom, the traditional Sikhs will say, if you don't go to Gurdwara for somebody's program, when you're having your program, they're not going to come for this. So it's almost like people are now commenting, because then when next time you put something and nobody will comment because you never liked or put in a comment, great job, good job. It feels just very shallow. You don't need a platform where you're sharing something with 2,000 people, right? If you have 2,000 connections, it's your 50, 70, 100, maybe 200, right? Your colleagues, you should choose, because right now your Facebook has got so many people you don't even know.
But you see, even on LinkedIn, where I thought LinkedIn was more professional, it was meant to be a professional network, right?
You must have the discipline. You must turn down, right? I always turn down people. Like you got thousands of people you turn down.
No,
whereas Roshan has got 31,000 followers now.
Followers, okay lah, as long as it's not connections.
Maybe it's slash connections, and I don't know how many followers, but connections. Yeah, connections.
So for me, if I don't know who you are, I will not accept. That is just my kind of rule of thumb. Unless I want to connect with you for a certain reason, then I will write you a message, and if you choose to accept it, great. But in LinkedIn, I found it very funny that people who I have no personal, maybe it's somebody I met at one event or something.
Okay.
When my birthday comes around and LinkedIn gives them a notification,
I got rid of that.
So many birthday messages, right? And I'm like, man, these are people I've probably seen once in my life.
True.
And I find it's weird. And you're right in the sense, when you said just now, they're saying it so that you would probably say it back one day, right? In the sense, it doesn't feel so...
On Facebook, like that, on LinkedIn, I don't know. Maybe people they get prompted, right? Say, Digital News Asia editor, just say something. Maybe at some point you want to, it's very calculative. Maybe at some point, ask a favor, send an email or send a pitch. So, if I was just Karamjit, 90% of that goes away.
Like you said, it doesn't feel... I don't want to discount somebody doing something nice, right? But it doesn't feel... how do I say? I don't want to use the word genuine, because maybe they're genuinely wishing you, but it doesn't feel like it has any...
No, I will safely say 90% is not, because you're busy working, right? You're doing something, and whatever that is, you may not be working, you may be watching something also, right? Or movie or whatever. And then you see this notification. I don't turn on my notification except for my email. Pops up, right? They all want to do notification. I don't have my LinkedIn or Facebook one on. But if you see, then you say, hey, Karamjit, I haven't seen for a long time, your birthday. Then you just go away, segue, and just click. You know how easy it is to go and just click, congratulations, and then come back. And they even have prepared messages for you because they are trying to get you to engage.
Yeah.
But to me, it's all not genuine. And I don't mind if people get upset. Karam, I send you a birthday wish is real. But I'm guaranteeing you 90% of that is not. So If I play the odd stands...
What we are talking about now,
so this the platforms trying to manipulate you lah.
Yeah. No, it is the platforms, right? But
trying
I
to
think
engage,
ultimately, if we want to look at it as an individual, if you want to look at it is, yes, the platforms are doing everything they can to manipulate you. But at the end of the day, we are also, I think there is a level of laziness to the thinking.
Compliancy lah, right? You don't think, right? You just do because you think I want to just say hello. It's a nice thing to do to say hello.
And when I say laziness, I'm saying it because I believe I'm also guilty of it. I'm not saying that I am not like that and everybody else like that. I think my realization comes from the fact that I catch myself being lazy in the sense is you don't want to put thought into it. It becomes a very thoughtless process.
Yeah, of course lah. That's why the prompt comes, right? You just instantly you think, look, you do, and then you go back to what you're doing, which is your most important thing.
Which
point
brings me to two topics. Actually, it brings me to two topics. I'm trying how to separate it, right?
Okay.
That I wanted to talk to you, and that's probably why I brought you back here. Is that kind of brings us to the two things. So the two things I want to talk about is actually one is you have two grown boys, right? And I really want to hear how are you managing them with relation to social media and all this, right? And in a greater way, the second thing is also that I want to talk about is, in a small way, our residents association, our community, right? Because social media, as I feel, has eroded the real need to have like human connections, right? So I think it connects to both. So I don't know which one we want to tackle first. Like maybe we tackle the social media with relation to your kids.
Okay.
You seem to have a very disciplined approach to social media, right? From what I say,
and my wife also is a big skeptic. And for me, the key thing is you are the product, you are the data, So I say I'm not
But not many people think like that. Correct?
Yeah, I know lah. But maybe because I'm in the tech space, I do a lot of reading, right? I talk to a lot of people, so I said there's no way I'm gonna get used, and I don't have a need to like share my life, even if on a shallow level, with a whole bunch of people that I don't know. If I can grow old with 5 friends, I will consider 5 good friends. I'll consider myself to be a very rich man, and I honestly don't think at this stage I can grow old with 5 very good friends.
I can relate. How does your kids' experience differ from what you observe, right? Are they very... How old are your boys, by the way, now?
One is 17, one is 14 plus.
Oh, okay. So they are right smack in that
but
age of...
It starts earlier. So what I did was I controlled their devices. My younger one still doesn't have a smartphone, right? He's in Form 2.
Okay.
I think there are only 2 or 3 kids in his class, and maybe in the whole form. Definitely in his class, 2 or 3 kids only who don't have a smartphone.
You see.
Yeah. And then not only that, but even before that, when they were younger, like, when they were 5 years old or whatever, 10 years ago, the hot fad was tablets, right? Or 12 years ago, everybody wanted, those who could afford it, could give their kids tablets, right? Oh, so good, engaging, you EQ, IQ combination. Then, 18 months later, all the stories were about everybody's absorbed in their own world, the kids are not interacting and all. I never gave them that because I want them, there's always time for the digital stuff in their life. I just want them to grow up having well-rounded life like this, going outdoors, playing. The fact that my kids play sports, some parents will say, wow, you're so lucky your kids play sports. And that just blows my mind, really. You're lucky, So the bar is incredibly low for that because they got caught in giving the kids devices early and the kids get just lost in the world. And at some point, maybe your eyesight also gets affected or whatever. But it's ridiculous. And the Silicon Valley leaders, which I found out later only, they don't let their kids have these devices or they manage it very tightly. Can you imagine the guys who are selling you these apps and all trying to get you hooked with their own kids? They say, no, you can only use maybe 2 hours a day or 1 hour a day. Very strictly, they keep their kids to these devices.
No, actually,
maybe once they hit a certain age, like my 17-year-old only got his smartphone when he's 15, and my wife got it for him without telling me. I don't have to say, wait a few more months. So like the younger one now, 14 and a half, but because of the MCO, suddenly the smartphone is important for them to liaise. But he's sharing it with me now. So when he wants, I'll turn on his, Papa, can I move your WhatsApp to my tablet to see stuff? So we're sharing the phone. Of course, he's at home, right?
Yeah.
But he's probably end of this year or by by next year, January, February, just before he's 15, probably we'll give him a smartphone. But at that age only,
Actually, talking to a few other
control
people,
the devices.
The smarter people have told me that don't give a device until 14, age 14, until 14. And another friend of mine, he mentioned this to me because his observation, he also has two sons. He has two sons. So he saw the difference in how the first boy went when you hit with devices and all that. So he kind of corrected the second. So, but what he realized was, he was saying that the minute they have a device in their hand, they get consumed by it. So
their world narrows. Their world narrows.
So he was saying also their worldview goes from this to that. And he was saying that, they will spend ungodly amount of hours in the room, just on the bed, on the phone.
So that is the key thing. So when we, although there are no devices, but the study was where their desktop, and I got them a desktop, not laptop, because desktop stays there in the screen, so you can see what they're doing also. And that is the single, I think, we just by accident we realized that was the single most important thing we accidentally did. I wanted them only one device, one computer, 27-inch screen, because I wanted them to learn sharing, and I wanted to limit the amount of time they play games, because they're big into online games, right? So on the weekend only you can play, but you play 1 hour, then your brother's turn, so they learn. And then it limits them to 3 hours a day only, because then you 6 hours gone, right?
Right.
And he said, we play the least among our friends. Hey, I don't care, man. I'm not here to be your friend, okay? I'm your parent. It's a God-given responsibility. I don't want to be your friend. I'm your parent, okay? So they're lucky. So anyone who's listening, if you're going to have kids or you have kids young, but get them one desktop, right, 27-inch, so that it's in the study. Of course, I'm lucky we have a study. Some people may say no, but put it in the hall then.
Yeah.
Right, in a small desk, right? So that then you can easily see
also. But
and they were used to it because they were not able to compare.
To the hall.
Hallway to the
it's, there's no space, there's no study. But the walkway to the hall, they put a computer there. So there's zero privacy. I think that's a good thing.
It's a very good thing for young kids, right? So you don't have to worry about predators or whatever, and then you can see stuff. And then at some point, my wife say, "I don't like all these bikini girls videos starting to appear after a few years, right?" Then you do parental control, so you can see. I think it's very important.
Actually,
remember your kids have no rights, okay? Until you assign it to them. Don't give away your rights, your parenting responsibility.
No, but Karan, I would also join the group of people to recommend the Social Dilemma to you, only because I like the angle where it is not so much talking about us. It was actually talking more on the impact of
what they are doing.
Actually on what they're doing in relation to kids, teenagers, and how we are kind of allowing social media to shape their reality, as opposed to the real world that we're talking about, right? And then you mentioned, like, the things that you mentioned, right, is things that I think about, because my son is just 2 years old. So, and I'm nowhere near thinking about, what's it going to be when he joins social media, right? I'm focused on getting him to talk.
Sure.
But, when you say things like, your son is probably, one of 2 people in the whole class who doesn't have a smartphone.
Oh, not probably. It's only 2 or 3 of them in his class.
So you see, in the sense of peer pressure, or even if it's not peer pressure, I would say societal pressure. I think maybe your character, I think you're very clear on why you want certain things, right? But I don't know whether most parents will succumb to that pressure, like, all my friends got a laptop, all my friends got a smartphone. I'm the only one who doesn't have a smartphone, right? And how do we reconcile something like
because
that?
I tell them, for me it's easy, because I'm a technology journalist, so I know this long term is not good for you. I want you all to have a broader base experience of life. You've got the TV there, you've got the internet there. You cannot say you're missing out on anything. Impossible, right? So that's an excuse I don't buy.
So when they get the smartphone at
and
15,
remember, you're starting early. So when they 8, 9, 10 years old, you're giving them exposure to sports or going out doing basketball. They don't question that. It's just normal. So maybe
you see, the thing I try to reconcile is see, me growing up, I was into football and sports and all that, and I was with a group of friends who was, and my character is such that I like to focus on one thing. I don't like to deviate, right?
Okay.
But my buddies, we'll say, oh, come go for football, right? Then they will spend a good 2 hours before football playing Counter-Strike in the cyber cafe.
I see, yeah.
They want to go play pool, and there's always seems to be a distraction for them, all these things, right? And I'm a very stubborn character, right? So I was like, screw it, if you all want to play, I'll just go by myself to the football field, play with who's there, right?
Yeah.
So I was always that person who can say no to my friends. But I also realized it's a very lonely existence. Not many people are like that. Not many people can say no to a group of friends consistently.
And who want to include you in the activity, keep saying no.
Yeah. So in that sense, I think, how do you enforce this confidence in your kids, right? To not cave into peer pressure.
So I don't know whether it's instill confidence, but it's just my strong belief that what we are doing to limit them is the right thing to do for their long-term future. And I tell them that. So whether they bought into it, they were never resentful, or angry. So like I said, you've already got broadband at home, you've got a 27-inch, monitor. So how are you complaining? Of course, the youngest one will say, "Oh my God, my life is so boring." And I say, "What? Really? You think your life is so boring? Because that's their reality. They don't know anything else. So I don't blame them.
And then it's comparative, they're comparing to.
Of course.
What did you do this weekend? Oh, I spent 2 days playing the game. I don't even have a phone.
Yeah. So no. I think, like I said, it's your parental responsibility. Do what you feel is best, And so my son the other day was saying that we are so I'm not by nowhere near claiming that we are great parents or whatever, but he said something that surprises, because when we were eating dinner together, he said that it seems that we are the most normal family among his friends. They're all 17 years old, right? And it was disturbing and disappointing and scary to hear him say that. It's like we don't eat at the dinner table all the time, but when we managed to pull him out of it, because he's also in college now, right? Okay. So his priority is there, but
he started college already?
Yeah, I mean, he's a Canadian program now, but not university.
CIMP,
so CIMP. So super busy, but when he joins us, then we sit down, we try to talk. Like I say, it's important for us to sit down. Then the young one will sit down and eat, and then he'll try to leave. Then when I blink, he's sitting in front of me, sometimes I can miss him. Hey, when did he walk away, man? It's crazy, and I don't have my device on the table also. I just magically can say, "Hey, Banu, get your ass here, man." I got nothing to contribute. It doesn't matter.
No, but Karam, one of the ideas, one of the ideas that I'm trying to formulate is, I think it will be very difficult for me to determine what my son thinks in the future.
Of course, right?
Because he's an individual, just like I'm an individual, right? But the idea that I'm formulating, right, is how do I help him to know how to think, not what to think. Whatever it is that you want to do, you do, but the idea of how to think about things, and then you make your own decision. But the idea of, think things through, don't let people influence you,
I think it's your role model, you are their role model, and they listen to how you and your wife communicate. If you all are just talking at each other and not talking to each other, they pick up on these things. There is actually no rocket science to this, right? Very much your communication with your wife and yourself, and how you all communicate. And sometimes and because you're working from home, when you have a conversation with someone, then you hang up, and I share that with my maybe I was a bit, stressed out, or I was very happy. I take the time to say, this is what happened, or what, and that's what this is happening. This is the world. You live in sometimes when you watch TV, they watch some segment of Al Jazeera on Middle East, explain to them what's going on, the world is screwed up, and this kind of things, right? They may not understand it, but you just open up their mind a bit. Until my 14-plus-year-old, who was, I think when he was 12 years old, he asked me, or maybe before he's 13, he said, "Papa, how do you set up a company?" And that just blew me away, man. Which young kid it's not like his father is a super entrepreneur, right? Yeah, I want to set up a company. He just asked that, how do you set up a company? And I was amazed with that. It's great. So you see the brew. I said, okay, Banu, this is what you do. I didn't take him to the SSM website. I said, there's a few things you can do. But even though it was a fleeting word, he asked a question that I love. How do you set up a company, right? So you just, and I think it's your conversations with them, and you know your space well. And these are things you can share with them, explain to them. They may not understand, but just Papa want you to know a little bit, right? It's not like I want you next time to be the best, the biggest t-shirt entrepreneur in Southeast Asia, whatever, right? Whatever little experience you have in your life, you can share with them. You may not be an entrepreneur, you may be working for people all the time, and you can tell them, son, it's very important to communicate well, to hear what people say, and don't be stubborn, right? Because, and you can use your own example. I made a mistake here, or, somebody did this today, or whatever, and they were punished. So be careful what you say. Don't be too overconfident. You can only share with them what's in your own life. So I don't want to sit here and say, okay, you must do this, do that, right? People are limited by their own life experiences. So you cannot tell them to do something which is beyond their realm,
But you also have this unique experience that not many parents have of, correct me if I'm wrong, you mentioned to me that your boys, one is in private, one is in public school.
Now, yeah.
Right? You have experience of what a child going to a public education is like, a child going to a private education is like. First of all, my total assumption is private is better because you're paying more, right? In that sense, right? Is it true? Do you feel there's a better education in the private side?
So having sent the kids there, so private education, you pay for what you get, lah. Okay. So a lot of people in the middle class, who never would have sent their kids to international school, or private school means you're the national curriculum, but you're studying it with a smaller class size and better teachers, lah, right?
Okay.
So you got private and you got international. My kids went to international because as a journalist, I'm lucky I meet a lot of senior people. So, before they were ready for school, I was talking to people, they say, our education system is preparing people to work in the industrial economy. Very powerful quote. Somebody at the Asia Pac level, a Malaysian, told me, our education system is preparing our kids for a world that is past and increasingly going in the past. So I said that really scared me as a parent. When something like that hits you, you'll try to do whatever you can to make sure you don't get them into that trap, right?
Okay.
So then, of course, then international was the only way to go, and we couldn't afford it that much. But we found a school that was not so expensive, so we put them there.
Okay.
But then I think so they both went to hold from standard 1 to standard 6.
I always thought that you needed to be a foreigner or to hold a foreign passport. Either parent had to hold a foreign passport to go into international school.
It used to be like that, but I think like 15 years ago they opened it up when Hishamuddin, I think, was the education minister, where international school to take up to like 30% when they first started lah. You could take Malaysian students for as long as they can afford it. No more any pretense, because a lot of parents were complaining national school not good enough, and those who could afford it wanted to send. So then they opened it up, so more international competition brought prices down lah. So then the middle class was able to now start to send their kids there. But you invest, so then what happens is when you put middle class puts their kids in international school, where however expensive it is, you will end up front loading your investment, in the education. Normally with education, you backload. Backload means after you hit 18 years old or 19 years old, okay, I've saved up this, now I can send you to university overseas or whatever, or local private university, and there are a lot of incredible good universities in Malaysia. You don't need to go overseas, right? Absolutely not. But because of this, now you front load your investment, and then it sacrifices, it impacts your quality of life, right? So I still drive the same car I was driving like when I bought it in 2003, and people think it's because I'm trying to remain, I'm a cheapskate, or I'm just one of those who just very functional. But no, I am functional. But if I could afford it, I would have got another second-hand car, not drive a 21-year-old car, whatever, right? But it's the financial reality of your life. So that's why I said I don't want. Parents can only do what is within their means, right? Experience, exposure, talk to kids and all. So getting them into school was that, because our education system was not up to date. And then second thing, then once they were in there, I think when they were in Form 1, then my financial situation became a bit tighter, and I said, I want to, and I actually, even when they went in also, I told myself and my wife and my mom, when they're in Form 1, put them into national school. Because international school, the kids go and come, you cannot build lasting relationships, which they don't have. And national school, you can, and that's very important. Like some of my closest friends are those I went to school from 1 to Form 5.
Right. Yeah.
So you don't build that, and I think that's in a world which is becoming ever more digital and fast-paced. I think it's important to have that strong foundation of people from long time ago, you can be very natural, real with. So that's why I wanted to put them in Form 1. But then it didn't happen, and then when I wanted to do it because of finances, my mom and my wife and my sister also from the US said, no, you can't do that to them.
Wow.
Stayed another 2 years, then I said finally cannot. But my 17-year-old then was like 16, 15. He said, no, hey, Papa, I got 2 more years to go. You can't do this to me.
Okay.
Then I was overruled by the 3 ladies in the house. But my younger one, then I pulled him out. I said, Banu, sorry, we cannot because your brother insists, so we cannot afford both.
Okay.
Like if the younger one had insisted, then I definitely would have pulled out the older one also. So I said, tell the older one, you owe a lot to your brother. I actually spoke to him. I said, why? And he said, okay, Papa. So he went to, and as a parent, it hurts you.
That's really mature of him to...
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah. I mean...
Because most cases, you just throw a tantrum and say, why did you go?
Correct. So I explained to him and I said, this is why, and your brother almost finishing, so we're going to keep him there. And then he said, okay. So that's amazing. Yeah. So he came back to national school. So and also at that point, when you said the different, 12 because...
Form 1. Okay, so that's Form 1 going to Form 1.
No, Standard 6. He moved to national school in Standard 6. Yeah.
Okay.
And then by then also I realized in my whole family, they were the only 2 in international school. All the other family members, even those who could afford it, kept their kids in national school. And all their kids after Form 5, their parents were complaining, not so good or whatever, but good enough lah. All the kids ended up going to university and 2 are dentistry now, and 1 is studying to be a doctor, and some are engineers already, right?
Right.
So their national school education didn't hold them back.
Okay.
And what I thought was not that they went for so much tuition. Also, I think you're lucky if you're in the middle class, and this is what I'm saying as parents, right? I think the conversations you have with your kids is also an education for them. Like when I'm sharing with my kid about about a phone call I had about work or whatever, when I showed them Digital 50, we're online, why we're doing this, right? Things you explain to them, it may not be about your work, but it's about your own experience in life, right? For something, I explained to them the implication and even where I think I've made mistakes or whatever. And that becomes and even conversations around the dinner table, sometimes we talk about a little bit about the Middle East, right? Or what's going on in the US or some places, right? It just opens up their mind. If you don't have conversations with them about this, it doesn't open up their mind.
So in terms
and then for reading also, by the way, when my kids, on the weekend when my kids want to watch YouTube, at least with the younger one, and even the elder one, I said that before you watch what you want to watch, your first 2, you must watch 2 segments of TED Talk. Okay,
wow,
but then my younger one said, Papa, then after a while he said, Papa, I prefer to watch TED Ed. Because TED Ed is shorter, but also animation based, right? But
and catered for kids,
so maybe it's actually good for adults also, but they just decide to use animation as the way to impart the knowledge. And so I get what I want, they get what they want. And remember with the games, 1 hour. And then with my elder one, once he's older, I told him to go to a website, and he subscribes to the MIT magazine, which is the PDF version online.
Okay.
And I said, this is very important. Just read so you're aware of what's going on in the world of tech at the cutting edge. And a website that is free, go and read this. Every day, 1 article, skim the headlines, find 1 article, and talk to me about it, because I'm in this space, right? He hardly did it, but I told him to do that, right? And but his view is a bit broader.
So but these are things you can do. Your side
I mean, not really. You're just telling them, but the effort is where to enforce it. Hey, Harjit, you didn't talk to me about an article. So you can saying things is easy, right? Your intention is there, but then to monitor compliance is difficult. So I try to do that, but I've done a much better job with the younger. The elder one is already self-assured now. He's confident beyond his years because he's good in sport. One sport is very good. Everybody say you're very good, and there's boost your self-esteem, right?
Yeah.
So his confidence is there. But
so now that the younger boy is in public Form 2, so it's like 3 years now in the public system, right?
Actually 3 years, but I also told him recently that if you want to go back to international school in your last 2 years to do your year 10 and 11, right? That means your Cambridge right? Your O levels. You can, but you got to make sure you do very well and you got to ace your science subject. Okay, then if you want to, then we can send you back to international school.
Why are you giving him that option?
One is because I will be 55 soon, so I'll be able to access my EPF. So again, your financing also, right, and your guilt also. And then the elder one now is Canadian, but the elder one next year is going to do just language only. Because he's going to try to go to Germany. Okay. So you do German language. The courses is not expensive So he's already doing his Canadian program now, and so then I think we'll be able to save some money, right?
Actually, that makes a lot of sense. If you're going to go overseas, instead of paying hundreds of thousands in the US and UK, learn the language, and get a first class education in Germany.
Correct. But it's very hard, but now with the financial situation of the world, it's way more difficult. So I said, son, you got no choice, you got to ace everything, and then you got to make sure you learn your German very well, because they'll test you on German language also.
Right.
So, but if he gets in, then it's way easier for the son, because then it frees up the money I have for him, right, for the younger one.
Yeah.
So, but it's like at this stage now, I'm thinking my EPF is not for me and my wife to do anything. It's to make sure that I can get them through their education and what they want.
So if somebody is listening to this, right, and they can't afford private or international education, right, do they have no choice? I mean, do they?
Of course, right. All over the world. The reality of 95% of parents all over the world is your national school education. So, and look, Malaysia is a destination for so many companies to come here, right? Invest KL, they just hit their target of having 100 global companies to set up their operational headquarters in Malaysia. 100, I think it took them 5 years, but if you say our talent not good, because the first question they ask when a foreign investor comes in, how's your talent pool? And honestly, our talent pool is good enough. Our education system, the weakness also only is in the teaching. Of course, they say that's the most important part of the software part, right? But we don't have enough good. But everybody complains. I've heard Americans, Canadians, Australians, New Zealand people complain about their national education system. So it's not a Malaysian thing only. But our local education system is good enough. And then you just got to put your kids in, but don't overdo with the tuition, 5 tuition or 6, unless the parent is very driven and the child is very driven. If they're not, pick the 2 or 3 subjects you think is important. If you generally guide them in a certain area, right? And pick that. Our education system is good enough, I would say.
And also
you may not be happy, but look at my whole own family, right? All the siblings, my nieces, nephews are doing very well. And they went through our national education system. But they were lucky they were in urban schools. I mean, Rawang is still urban also. Right? Some went to Rawang, and then some in Subang Jaya, some because some all ended up being in Klang Valley. So you're in an urban area, but it's good enough.
But
so don't beat yourself up saying our education system not good enough, my kid won't have a good future. No.
No, because even looking at the working world, right?
Yeah.
Because I have friends who went to the US to study, went to the UK to study, and they came back. And the ones that come back to work here, when they go into the job market, their starting pay is similar to anybody who's graduated from our local universities.
Yeah, correct. There's no
competitive advantage unless the person who's interviewing is very picky about the way they speak English and all that. But having said that, even Malaysians who have never stepped outside of Malaysia speak very well English.
Yeah, we are lucky.
You don't need to go abroad to in a sense, right? So for me, I feel there's no real competitive advantage unless you're talking about you're going over there, to just say you're studying in Germany, you're very interested in engineering and whatnot and all that, and you want to work, you love automotive, and there's there's an aspirational journey over there. But if you're going there just to come back, I don't know whether there's a competitive. I'm sure as a human being, the experience has enriched you. I have no doubt.
Yeah.
But in the working world, I don't know whether there's a competitive advantage as opposed to a foreign grad to a local grad lah. At least in my small way, I have not seen it.
I don't think so lah. I don't know. Like my cousin wanted to go overseas to study, but the uncle didn't send her. Say no, you're a girl, you cannot go overseas. Then you fall in love with somebody, then you get married there. That's a very extreme Bai view lah. Okay, but I'm sure it's a Asian view, very extreme. But she ended up studying here. I think she went to UTM or whatever. And now she's in a global company in Malaysia. Never set a foot to study outside. And she's leading a global team. But the key was because she spoke English, right? Well, not just well, but she can articulate, and because in your workforce it's your performance, people forget about the piece of paper that says which university, what, or your CGPA, how high, that is out the window the moment you step into the workforce and log in, right, into the it's your performance that counts. People judge you based on your performance, not to say, hey, Karamjit is a Cornell graduate, 3.7 lah, when they do your appraisal. But is on the job thing was just, average only lah. But hey, Cornell 3.7, I think we better pay him higher lah. Lunch out, right? No such thing. People judge you based on your performance. So performance in any workforce, you must be able to work well with different people, right? So, and you must be able to articulate your views well. And this one, I don't know how parents teach that, but if in your family, like I said, as parents, or how you and your wife talk to each other, how you talk with your kids also, very important, right? The house is the biggest influencer.
I agree. I agree.
And only your friends become the biggest influencers when the house doesn't play that role. You're around your kids most of the time, right?
No, would you say, I mean, this idea of private education, right?
Okay.
I think if it was not for the cost factor, everybody would prefer private.
If it's not for the cost factor, yeah.
Obviously, right? And I think, do you think, and this is just an opinion, there's no facts attached to it, right? Okay. Do you think that now with this new reality of something like the COVID comes in, right, where kids are not going to class, for best part of a year, but the parents are still paying for it, right? Do you think there's that may be a factor for people to reconsider, whether it's private? Because I feel even daycare, it's obviously not their fault that COVID happened, right? It's not their fault, so nobody's blaming them. Yes. But the fact that they are forcing parents to pay even though they are closed, so you have no choice, you have to pay. And now parents have to pay for daycare and still pay for a way to take care of the kids because they still need to go to work or still need to find the money, right? And I think that spanner in the works sort of, I feel like people are re-looking this whole paying for education. I was talking to a kid, not kid, he's a college student. I was selling off one of my old headphones and he came all the way to buy this Korean boy. And he was saying, I'm buying this headphone because it's got noise cancellations because I want to fly back. I'm like, it's a lockdown, where are you going? He said, no, my parents told me to come back because I'm here to study in one of the private colleges. But I can't go to class. They're saying I must still pay fees, but I can't go into college. So they're saying, come back home, you can
reduce your cost of living.
There's no cost of living here. So I think there is
see, every parent, the decision is made around their means, right?
And I think there's a rethink. Although COVID is not going to be a future factor. I mean, this is going to affect us for next 6 months, maybe a year. But I think that it's such a big impact, right? That we will start. I feel that we might start reconsidering. Hey, do we really need to? I don't know. Again, it's an assumption that I have. I don't know whether do you think there'll be a factor in terms of, because this is painful for people who have to pay.
Of course, No, you will. But my friend's son is studying in Germany, but the father asked him to come back because he cannot go to class, and the university also allow you to do remotely or do in class. And the parent said they prefer their child to be back, because although Germany now cases gone up again, by that point cases were high. They say come back. So the son is happily studying. But you're still getting a German education, and the parents say plus, it's still better than nothing. And your son's social experience is lessened.
But everybody also, because of COVID, everybody is.
And your education experience in terms of classes is not, because even if you were physically in a class, you're still like 100 people with one lecturer. So your online one is the same, but then you have to show more initiative to book one of those, maybe 15-minute slot with the professor or the teaching assistant, right? Hey, I want to ask this and ask that. And you form online groups, right, with your peers, right, to study together. So it's human nature, you have to adapt, right? So this is the thing. And then, like I said, this Korean kid, the parents brought him back because cheaper to be at home, and you might as well your mother cooks for you.
And,
whatever, right?
And I also suspect, that from a parental point of view, having your kid alone in a country, cooped up alone,
you have no social support.
You imagine the worst, because
if they catch
in terms of mental, it's not about physical, right? It's about you can't go out, you're alone. Is he going to get depressed? What's going to happen to him? And
totally understandable.
In that sense, I can imagine people don't want somebody to be alone.
Correct.
To go through that experience.
So most parents have made that, unless you're coming from a country like Somalia or whatever, no matter what, stay there. Nobody's shooting outside.
Okay. In that sense, thank you very much.
No.
If you have, I think I definitely have more questions on this, but I know where to find you. And I must say, this episode actually, the camera is slightly better because it's been sponsored by Karamjit. Or can I say it's sponsored by Digital News?
No.
It's borrowed me the camera for me to test because it's a hell of a lot better than the old camera. Thanks, Karam. Thanks for coming.
No.
Okay, and be safe, everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Be safe.